What if Padme Amidala was a Sith Lord? Let's start this back during a Phantom Menace. Padme had successfully risen to the role of Queen of Naboo whilst hiding her true nature as a Sith Lord. She was especially happy with the fact that she had hidden her powers from Senator Palpatine, whom she could sense was strong with the dark side. She knows that Palpatine used her as a pawn to defeat his political enemies and to get her under his control, but this would end up positively for her. She knew if she was going to gain control over the galaxy, she would eventually have to join the Senate. Being the Queen was the best way to do this. The invasion of Naboo takes place, an interesting and bold move by Palpatine. She knew he was going for the chancellorship and praised him for such a unique strategy. It would almost certainly work. However, there were aspects that she didn't expect. Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi were sent to protect her, both oblivious to her power in the Force. To escape Naboo, they travel to Tatooine, where things start to get interesting. In search of new parts for their ship, they enter a shop at the suggestion of Master Qui-Gon. Padme thought nothing of it until she laid eyes on the boy working in the shop. He couldn't be older than 8, but exhibited the strongest connection to the Force she had ever felt. She stared at the boy, shocked and frozen in place by this revelation. She turned her head to Master Qui-Gon, and she could tell he sensed the same, although maybe not to the same degree. Qui-Gon moved off with the owner, and Padme noticed the boy staring at her before asking, "Are you an angel?" She had a quick conversation with the boy, whom she knew was called Anakin. She was amazed at his ambition to leave this planet and his intelligence for such a young boy. The fact that he was a slave topped it off, the perfect beginning for a Sith. Padme had pondered on whether she would take an apprentice for a while now. She was waiting for the right opportunity. Was this it? They left the shop and Padme walked in silence, pondering about what has just occurred. Before she let her thoughts get carried away, the boy Anakin joined them and warned them of a sandstorm before inviting them to his house for the night. Padme was amazed at what she had stumbled upon, a slave woman with a slave son in the Outer Rim, and the boy had the strongest connection to the Force she's ever seen. She decided that there and then, the boy would be hers. However, there was the problem of Qui-Gon. He had noticed the boy's potential and was eager to harness it. She overheard Qui-Gon taking the boy's blood test. 20,000 midichlorians. She held a similar number at 18,000. Had the Force brought them together? Padme concluded that there was nothing she could do at the moment. The Jedi now have caught wind of the boy. Qui-Gon has taken notice of him, and now taken a sample of his blood, which was sent to Obi-Wan back on their ship. If she decided to take him there and then, there would be suspicions about what happened, and might lead back to her being involved. If she was to ever control the galaxy, her identity mustn't be revealed before then. She was sloppy. She waited too long. If she had taken the boy before Qui-Gon sent the blood test to Obi-Wan, then she could have kept her identity secret. But now the boy is on the Jedi's records. They would ultimately pin things back to her. Padme decided the best thing to do was to let the Jedi have Anakin, have him trained in the Jedi Order and gain knowledge of the Force. She could sense the boy's attitude. He was ambitious, and his life as a slave with his mother taught him to care only for those close to him. Fundamental traits that Jedi training could not override. He was simply too old. He would be at odds with Jedi training, and when the time comes, she would take him for herself. Palpatine successfully becomes Chancellor of the Republic. Padme's 2 terms as Queen are up, and she's asked to join the Senate by the current Queen. 10 years have passed by, and Anakin has overcome her expectations. She's kept a keen eye on him, and noticed he is immensely strong in the Force for someone of his age. Although there is a problem. She has noticed Palpatine takes a liking to the boy. Ever since Qui-Gon's death on Naboo, Palpatine has swooped in to be the father figure Anakin has never had. Because of this, Anakin would be easily manipulatable. Padme must take drastic measures. Her plan was to seduce the now 19-year-old boy and bring him under her control. However, Padme's seduction wouldn't go as planned. Padme decided that the only way she would be accepted by the galaxy as their leader is if she was viewed as a pacifist, a genuine good person that wanted to see the best for the galaxy. She'd caught wind of Palpatine's plans to initiate a galactic conflict. After all, Count Dooku is the head of the Separatists, and Palpatine is his master, even if the Jedi deny it. Palpatine was attempting to pass the Military Creation Act, and this is when Padme would begin building her image. She openly opposed the creation of the Republic military for the whole Senate to see and begged them that a diplomatic solution to the conflict could be achieved. She knew this would be useless. and that a war was inevitable, but she had to build her image. She needed the Senate and the galaxy to think her intentions were pure. Because of this, Count Dooku had been ordering assassination attempts against Padme, a complete coincidence. But she would use this to her advantage. This was the moment she would bring a young Skywalker under her wing. Anakin and Obi-Wan were assigned to protect Padme. The two Jedi meet with the senator in her office. She greets Obi-Wan joyfully, having not seen him in 10 years, and then lays her eyes upon Anakin, making sure to compliment his growth. Although after this comment, she senses something within Anakin. Maybe it would be easier to seduce him than she thought. Anakin is assigned to escort Padme to Naboo. Padme plans to begin laying the foundations of her seduction, but Anakin beats her to it, never missing an opportunity to compliment her or stare at her with a look of want in his eyes. Padme is caught off guard initially, but reciprocates Anakin's actions. Padme can't help but enjoy the time spent with Anakin. She likes his forward nature and confidence in himself. Every time he speaks, she feels his strength in the Force and begins to feel a way that she's never felt before. This goes on for days, until the two lock lips at her lake house. Padme couldn't have expected this to happen. She's fallen for Anakin Skywalker, who ended up seducing her before she could seduce him. They get married back on Naboo, right after the beginning of the Clone Wars. Padme's plans has been changed. Although she hadn't revealed her identity to Anakin, he would be a huge part of her plan. The fact that Palpatine had a grip over Anakin hadn't changed, but she believes her relationship to Anakin would be stronger than theirs. Having to keep their relationship secret during the Clone Wars was difficult for them both, but Padme was used to keeping secrets. This only strengthened their relationship, and Padme wanted to reveal herself to Anakin, with the hopes of him joining her, but she knew it was too early. She knows Palpatine's plans to corrupt the Jedi and Senate with the Clone War, and it's working so far, but she would soon turn the favor towards herself. Padme continues her pacifist stance in the Senate, and has become the unofficial leader of this faction. This was indeed her goal. Things seem to be going as planned. There are hundreds of senators who align with her beliefs, and this number is only growing. However, the Clone War continues regardless of this fact. She knows her pacifist group cannot defeat Palpatine in the Senate, but all that matters is that she appears to fight him. In this instance, Padme's beliefs and goals actually align with Palpatine. They both want to rule the galaxy, but the main difference between them is that Padme knows about Palpatine, but Palpatine has no clue about Padme. She intends to let him carry out his well thought out plan to take out the Jedi and swoop in at the final moments. All of his hard work will be for nothing. The Clone War has helped develop Anakin more than she could have imagined. Anakin is no normal Jedi. Padme purposefully put herself in danger multiple times so that Anakin would be forced to save her. But she didn't make things easy. She made it so Anakin would slowly have to commit more and more unethical tasks in order to save her, slowly bringing her lover down the dark path. Anakin would do anything for his wife. The fact that Padme was in a lot of danger in Anakin's mind made him resent the Clone Wars, and he would do anything to end it. He struggled with a deep internal conflict. He knew deep down that he'd forgone the Jedi's principles when he married his wife, but to bring an end to the Clone War, he would have to forsake the Jedi's key principle, selflessness. Anakin had become power hungry. He needed power to save his wife and bring an end to the conflict. He wanted power for himself, so that he and his wife could live their lives without fear. Padme of course facilitated this, praising Anakin whenever he reached new levels of power and ability, leading Anakin to crave strength even more. Very soon, he would seek to break free from the Jedi's grasp. Anakin and Obi-Wan returned from the Battle of Coruscant after saving the Chancellor and killing Count Dooku. Palpatine shows his gratitude to Anakin and wishes for him to become his eyes and ears on the Jedi Council. That night, Anakin tells Padme about this at their home. Padme can tell Anakin is overjoyed and is genuinely happy for him. However, Padme knows that Palpatine is beginning his endgame and his final moves against the Jedi. He has almost brought the Jedi to their knees without revealing himself. Truly an act that deserves praise, and she will make sure he is remembered in history. His plans will come to fruition soon. Padme needs to know what Palpatine is doing at all times, and now that Anakin is his eyes and ears, he can also be hers. That night, to congratulate him, she gives him a necklace of a sapphire-like pearl that can only be mined and found in the distinct place of Naboo, where they got married. She tells him that this symbolizes their love, which she truly does feel and mean, but she also hides an audio device so she can spy on Palpatine but also the Jedi's dealings. The next day, Anakin and Palpatine meet, with Padme eagerly listening in. Palpatine is really laying on his manipulation. He is portraying the narrative to Anakin that he's scared the Jedi are plotting to take over the Republic. After just being denied the rank of Master, Anakin is more at odds with the Jedi than he's ever been. Palpatine tells Anakin he thinks the Clone Wars will end soon, but the Jedi are planning to use the chaos to take over the Republic and start a civil war. Anakin was shocked to hear this and ultimately doesn't believe him right away. A council meeting later that day will convince Anakin. Palpatine was the main topic of discussion. The council asked Anakin to keep what was being said from Palpatine. He agreed, but he ultimately wouldn't remain truthful. The council discussed how the Clone War was definitely coming to an end soon, and that if the Chancellor didn't give up his emergency power after General Grievous's death, then he should be removed from office. The plan was for the Jedi to take control over the Senate during the transition. It had clicked for Anakin. In his mind, Palpatine was right. The Jedi were planning on taking over. Padme listened intently and almost laughed during this council meeting. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Palpatine's plan was right down to the very hour. She couldn't help but praise him. Obviously she knew the Jedi weren't plotting to take over, but Palpatine presented a convincing argument to Anakin. Padme knows there will be a lot of conflict in the coming days, and that Anakin in his search for power will attempt to profit from this. The perfect time for Padme to reveal herself. That night, Anakin went home to Padme and told her what he'd been told by both the Palpatine and Jedi Council. Anakin tells her that it's going to be dangerous over the following days and that it's best if she leaves for Naboo. Padme tells Anakin that she won't, and she's been waiting for this moment a long time. Anakin looks confused and stays silent. Padme knows she has to tread carefully. She loves Anakin, and depending on how she handles the next few minutes will determine the future of their relationship. She reveals everything to Anakin, how she's a Sith Lord, plans to seduce and use him for her benefit, but ended up falling for him. She tells Anakin she's waited a long time to tell him, because only after the Clone War would he finally realize the hypocrisy of corruption of the Jedi Council. If she revealed herself any earlier, he wouldn't have understood. Anakin sits down and considers what she's saying. Padme sits next to him and tells Anakin that all she wants is for them to rule and have absolute power over the galaxy, and declares that she's unconditionally devoted to him. Anakin slowly nods and declares his devotion to her, and says that he will join her. They embrace, but Padme tells Anakin that there is one more problem: Palpatine. She tells Anakin his real identity and his plans. Anakin sits in silence for 1 minute, contemplating the situation before asking what they should do. Padme tells him the plan for tomorrow, and the two head to bed, their love stronger than ever. The next day, Anakin heads to Palpatine's office. He tells Palpatine he believes him, and he thinks they should do something about it. Palpatine couldn't agree more, and reveals himself as Darth Sidious, and Anakin agrees to join him. Anakin kneels in front of Sidious and is given the title of Darth Vader. Sidious tells Vader that he should go to the Jedi Temple, and motions to walk out of his office. Sidious executes Order 66, and both of them feel a shift in the Force. Anakin got to the end of Sidious's office and stopped at the door. He opened and in walks Padme, and they both stare down the hallway towards Palpatine. He goes to ask what Padme is doing there, but he senses it before his words leave his mouth. He'd been tricked. Anakin and Padme ignite their lightsabers and rush towards Palpatine. He had no choice but to fight back. He initiated by sending lightning down the hallway, but Padme rushed forward to block, and Anakin went around her to strike at Palpatine. Palpatine only just ignited his blades to block the strike from Anakin, as he switched to defend the blow from Padme. He'd initially taken the defensive, looking for gaps to strike, but none prevented themselves. He must make them for himself. He dug his blades into the ground, which forced Padme and Anakin away. He scraped his blades on the ground, which sent sparks flying into Anakin's eyes. His vision was blocked, and Palpatine made a killing strike, but Padme grabbed Palpatine with the Force, holding his blades back. Anakin regained vision, and quickly cut off both of Sidious's forearms, causing him to drop his blades. He looked down in shock and collapsed to the floor. Padme walked over to him, and put her lightsaber under his chin to force his head up. She pulled her lightsaber back and then drove it into him, as she held eye contact, watching the light leave the Sith Lord. Padme and Anakin rejoiced in their victory. The galaxy was theirs for the taking, only a few loose ends to tie. Together, they go to the Jedi Temple with the clone troopers. They successfully eliminate every single Jedi that was in the temple, as well as a few stragglers. Padme kept this hidden from Anakin, but she'd spotted Obi-Wan making his way back towards the temple, and taken him out with ease. Anakin had mentioned bringing him over to their side, but Padme wouldn't risk it. Yoda hadn't made it back from Kashyyyk, but he would eventually be dealt with. The Sith would deal with it. They then head over to the Senate chambers, which were waiting for Palpatine. However, Padme and Anakin took the stage. They explained how Palpatine had attempted to take over the galaxy for selfish means, and that the Jedi planned to seize power for themselves, following the Clone War. She told everyone she had, along with Anakin, helped stop both their tyranny. But to ensure the future of the Republic, they together would take control and convert the Republic into an empire. with her as Empress and Anakin as Emperor. They took control of Palpatine's influence over the Senate and the galaxy to aid in their takeover. It took time, but ultimately their empire was established, Anakin and Padme at the forefront of control. For the few years following the beginning of the Empire, they mainly focused on hunting down Jedi that escaped, but it all suddenly went quiet. For 2 to 3 years, no Jedi were found. They knew they hadn't completely wiped out all the Jedi, and that there were some big names still at play. This worried the Emperor and Empress, and they feared the beginning of resistance. They sent their Inquisitors hunting all around the galaxy with no success. Something was happening. Anakin and Padme were in the throne room of their main dreadnought. Padme told Anakin that she had good news, that she was pregnant with their first child. Before Anakin could share her excitement, they were sent a video from their commander and described it as security footage from one of their Inquisitors' shuttles. The footage showed a Togruta wielding white blades and a small green figure chopping down 2 Inquisitors with ease before looking at the camera and destroying it. Anakin and Padme looked at each other. This was a declaration of war. Thanks for watching, guys. A special thanks to Connor, Ituma and Crystal, our members, and please leave a like and tell me what you think about the video. Hey guys, don't forget to check out our membership program for only 99 cents a month, which gives you these cool emojis to use in the comments as well as much more. Also, check out our Discord to hear about new video ideas first, link in the description.